All right. Well, thank you everybody for taking time out of your, is it Tuesday evening? I've lost track of where we are this week. But appreciate you taking the time out here. Hello to those of you in the recording. Just as a note, if you would drop in the Q&A, any, first of all, any questions you have, of course, but also perhaps your students' high school graduation year. Um, Anybody who is attending live, I'm just going to pick at random to get a free copy of Karen's fantastic book. Um, your student's grade or grade level will not have any bearing on that. It will be completely random, but just helps us to know who's out there with us today. So, with that, let's jump into everything. Here is our agenda for the night. So, Karen is going to be up first. She is the author of the wonderful book, Go to Class, How to Succeed at College. She is our resident expert on all things college. And then once Karen is done, I'm just going to talk briefly about finding and earning scholarships as a college student. Scholarship opportunities extend well beyond senior year, and so I'm going to give you just a few tips. I want to share those with you, and then we will take time for Q&A, whether it's questions for Karen or myself, and we will draw that winner for the free book. So, with that, let me stop sharing. And Karen, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm really looking forward to talking with everyone. And since it's a small group, I hope we can just, I know Dave had a few questions to get things started. But hopefully we can just get to the Q&A, which is always the most interesting part of the evening anyway. Uh, so I don't know. Do you want me to tell a little bit about my background? I
Yeah,
didn't.
go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I do have a couple questions to kick us off. And
Okay.
everybody else, if you would like to start dropping questions in the Q&A or in the chat, I'll try to monitor both.
Cool. So I worked in higher education for a really long time. I started off in residence life at Carnegie Mellon. My joke in my book is that, I didn't leave college till I was 48. But I worked in residence life supervising RAs for 2 years. Then I worked for 3 years at the graduate school at Princeton, also mostly in residence life and student life. Then I worked with transfer students for a little while at Livingston College at Rutgers. And then I spent the bulk of my career with the School of Arts and Sciences honors program at Rutgers University, where I was primarily an academic advisor, but I did a lot of other things as well. Um, I oversaw our summer reading program, which was really fun, and maybe that was the original germ of the idea of a book. But because I met a lot of really cool authors. But yeah, and I have a master's in higher education, and yeah, undergraduate degree in philosophy. So don't worry too much about your kid's major.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I think Karen, the one of the questions actually I reached out to my Facebook groups and got a few questions beforehand. So one was, what was the most common thing that you saw students had trouble with in the transition from high school to college?
That's a good question. So I think, I did work with honor students, and one thing that comes to mind quickly with them was that some of them just didn't have the greatest study habits. And they sort of just breezed through high school, and all of a sudden it got really hard. Um, and yeah, so I think that was one thing. I think also just being so stuck on a particular major or thing without exploring. Obviously, if you're doing architecture or engineering, you don't have a lot of choices. But I do
Mhm.
think sometimes people were like, oh, my whole life I wanted to be a doctor, so I have blinders on. I never look at anything. Um, but yeah, I mean, every student is unique, so there's always going to be challenges. But I would say the biggest thing to know is that there will be little things along the way, but expect the unexpected, I guess. Um,
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I'm in, quite a few parent Facebook groups, and I see some of these posts from parents echoing what you said, that they had this student who, really did well in high school, and then they got off to college and they really struggled academically. So I think that is a pretty common occurrence. Like you said, um, the course load is heavier. Students are going deeper. They don't have the hand holding that they do from teachers. Often, most professors are there to teach, and it's up to the student to kind of get the help they need. And some students just don't have the practice doing that.
Well, and also like the time management. So actually, a lot
Mm,
of students found that college was less time. I mean, in high school,
yeah.
I don't know, my daughter, her high school started so early, it was horrible.
Mhm.
But they were up from almost 6 a.m. and if they had an activity or a choir or a sport, they were busy all day. But in college, you have a lot more big blocks of time, but sometimes
Mhm.
that feels endless and you don't use your time as wisely. So then all of a sudden, um, deadlines come up, things like that. So I do think the transition from sort of being busy all the time and being told when you should be doing your homework, when you should be doing your athletics, when you should be sleeping, your parents are still around. So I think that is also probably a really big one.
Yeah. Yep. Another one came in. I think they had read the blog article that you wrote for me a year or two ago, asking about roommate issues. What are some common roommate issues that you saw?
Yeah, well, so that was a blog I wrote for you. It said good friends don't necessarily make
Right.
good roommates. And I think that that's really important. When I was at Rutgers, we used to have these big recruiting days, and I was in charge of honors housing because of my background in res life. And we'd always get this question about, should I live with my best friend from high school? And
Hmm.
I would always say, honestly, your friend in high school doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have similar living requirements because even though you were super close in high school, the way you live could be very different. One of you could be super messy, one could be super neat, and that wouldn't matter in high school. So I think thinking carefully again that it's not just that you get along, but do you have similar living styles. And in the post, I talked about different ways to, and people, I don't know, you can throw the link in the chat. I'm so not used to this kind of online thing anymore. But yeah, you could throw the link to that in the chat. And I didn't even look at that in advance of today. But yeah, I think, trusting your school to choose for you. I don't know if I totally get the whole go on Instagram and choose some random person or just because you met them at orientation. I think it's really important to have a good conversation about what your expectations are, what you're looking for, what kind of, are you going to be on a sports team and getting up at 6 a.m.? And then, if something's not going well, that's the whole point of the RA and speaking up early and not waiting, until you're 4 months in to say, oh my gosh, on the second day of classes, you did this, it's really good to uh, be good about giving feedback so that you can do things. RAs can get involved. There can be roommate conflicts, contracts, all that kind of thing. And then I also think it's important to sort of walk the walk and be a good roommate as well.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of sometimes see on those, I'm not on, I sort of get off the ones about staying in college because I'm usually on the high school
Yeah.
about to go to college groups. But it is interesting uh, that well, yeah, that's okay. I'll bring that
Mhm.
up later. Okay.
Okay. Well, speaking of being an RA, this comes from a student of mine. She earned a full tuition scholarship, and she's earning some outside scholarships to help pay for housing at least the first year. But she's looking at being an RA, and she wants to know from somebody who was in that process, what should she do her freshman year to make herself a better candidate to be an RA, perhaps sophomore, junior, senior year?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. So, I mean, I would say get to know your RA and what the job entails. And some colleges give you free room and board, and some colleges pay you. So, either way, but it might be good to know that. So getting involved in residence life, getting to know your RA and also the person who I was, which was like either area coordinator or residence life coordinator, that would be useful. And just sort of getting connected to the campus. One of the questions you emailed me was, how do you have academic success? But I think it's also that you want to do well, you want to get involved in the school, you want to do all those things that any student would want to do, so that then you can share it with the students as they come. Sometimes students start as an orientation leader before they do RA, but schools need RAs. But yeah, so getting to know all the different resources and using them so that you can say to your student, oh, I went to the writing center and it was really a big help and whatever. Yeah, so I think really just your leadership skills, all the things that make you you is what they're looking for. It's you sort of just have to be an all around friendly person who's open and someone people can confide in. Again, every college has a slightly different role of
Yeah.
whether the RAs are more helpers or rule enforcers or a lot of different roles, but they're all generally about the same. So,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I should have met you, I guess it would be 35 years ago now, because I was an RA and I was a terrible RA. I let the students on my floor get away with everything. So,
well,
uh,
and it can be a really hard job. I mean, my first year, when I was just an RA, I had some very serious things happen,
yeah.
very challenging. And then you're also trying to do your own life and your own job, and
Right. Yeah.
it can be a lot. But I got made a career out of it. So I ended up meeting all these deans and administrators, and I was like, wait, you can just do this forever and stay on college campus. It's so fun. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and RAs are just really fun people. So, in general,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, that was my problem. I was having too much fun
yeah.
to take the job as seriously as I should have. You mentioned I had sent you some questions. If you have those in front of you, if you want to walk through those.
Oh yeah, well no, I guess one of the things you said was what's the most important thing they can do to ensure academic success, which is like everything. But yeah, I think I just thought that getting connected to the community is really important, whether you're a commuter. And I mean, I think we should hurry and just get to all the Q&A for the people who are here so that we can target what we're saying to what they need to know. But getting connected has shown through all this research, whether you're a commuter or live on campus, is really important. And then also, I did look at my book. I haven't actually read it. It's a very quick read. I can show it to the people here, but it's not like some text heavy thing. It's just like lots of images and little tips, and they're all the things I used to say in my office to my students. But I looked through it and I was like, oh yeah, resources. That's super important. Like I made my daughter go to the writing center. I was like, your writing is not up to
Mm-hmm.
college level. You have to go for your first paper. And you know what? She did, and it really helped. And she became a much better writer in college than she was in high school. And then there's the regular learning center and the tutoring. And then there's also this thing that people sort of forget about, which is the things that go along they're usually at the learning center, but it's not straight up tutoring. It's procrastination, it's test anxiety, it's how to read your textbooks. It's all those sort of skills, and you can do those. And the students who I knew who took the time, it's free. I mean, why would you not do it? You're paying for everything. So that's one of my things in the book, just you're paying for it. So everybody should go to the gym and go to the tutoring and just take advantage of everything. So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That is fantastic advice. Well, again, to remind everybody, if you have questions for Karen or for me, go ahead and drop them in the Q&A. Karen, if you want to hit one of the other
oh,
questions I sent
sure.
over while we're waiting for more
Yeah.
more people to chime in.
Let's see. Well, we talked about the roommates. You asked about homesickness, which I thought was kind of interesting. It's getting a little late if we're talking to the graduating class, but I would say
Sure.
practice a little away time soon, if you can, if your kid's never been away. I think that's important, just to have that experience. I think it's important for the students to get busy and involved and connected. And, I was actually with a couple of college friends recently, and, we were remembering that when we were in college, if your parents wanted to call, they called the payphone at the end of the hallway, right?
Mhm.
And that you had to go down and say, okay, I'm going to call on Sunday at 2 or something like that. And nobody had
Yeah.
cell phones. But honestly, especially during the pandemic, my daughter was in college during part of the pandemic. And, FaceTime, WhatsApp, when she was abroad, she studied abroad. Those things are your friends. And it's really great to sometimes just see a family member's face. I mean, we actually still just use video calls now, always.
Hmm.
I don't know why, we
Hmm.
just got in the habit.
Yeah.
Um, and I think also it's just really important to discuss that it could happen and like, what is it and how do you overcome it? I remember when I was going to be working with a lot of international students at Princeton, I said, well, I don't know anything about culture shock. How am I going to help these students? And I remember my boss said, you're going to be great. They need to know like where the bus thing is and what the best groceries are to buy and things like
Hmm.
that. So watch a little thing about culture shock and you'll be able to help them. But I think just knowing what homesickness is and how other kids have gotten through it, or students. And the other thing is, I know our program had a student mentoring program, or if you know someone else who's at the college who's going to be a junior or senior, getting them connected, asking them, having them meet your student. That's a really fun thing to do. My daughter's birthday was the second day of college, and I remember being in a panic, like, oh my gosh, she's going to have nobody to say her birthday. And I see that posted sometimes in the boards. But I found
Hmm.
this wonderful person from our town who was going to be there, who was a senior, who I like dropped off a little gift. And she found her during orientation and gave it to her from us. We bought some cookies. So I think getting a connection with maybe an older student is also a really good thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. Um, I love what you said about also using like FaceTime and video calls. That definitely would help. Um,
Um,
I was
and then
gonna say, oh, go
okay.
ahead. Go ahead.
The only other question you sent was about setting kids up for success when they go off to college.
Hmm.
And, you know, uh, I think managing your own feelings and expectations as much as possible, being supportive, keeping an open line of communications. You want to help them, but also prep them for when you're not always going to be there to help. So that's really important. It is going to be a big change from high school. I would say, what I said at the beginning, expect the unexpected. Like there's going to be some stuff that you weren't expecting that will happen. But if they've got connected and met their advisor and got to know professors and things like that, there will be other adults who can help them without always having to come to you. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then, I always think of my book as like a fun little gift because it's just a little gift book. But I did once read somebody said that they used it as like a launching pad to discuss expectations for college because it really is all the little things that could happen, sleeping through a final, or yeah, I don't usually like to bring that up, but it did happen every semester.
Yeah.
I would have two or three students who'd call me up. They're like, oh my gosh, my final's going. So, I'd be like, why are you calling me? Go to the final.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I think if you use the book, you can go through it and just be like, oh, wow, I never thought about being sure you register on time, or just other little tips that can help you have longer conversations about what they might expect. So,
Yeah. Yep. Can you talk a little bit about from the parents' perspective, maybe some of the changes that they might expect? It's not like high school where you can call and, at least theoretically talk to the teacher, right?
no,
There
no.
there's some legal restrictions
Yes.
around that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, yeah, I mean the only thing you're definitely going to get is the bill. And hopefully Dave can help you with that.
Yeah.
But let's just say I can tell a funny story. So one time I had a student in my office and I was helping her register for the next semester and we pulled up her schedule and she was like, "Oh my gosh, wait, how did that class get there?" And then she just whipped out her phone. This was phone time and called her mom and she's like, "Mom, did you add this?" I was like, "You gave your mom your login, like you can know as much as your student is willing to help you and to give you that information." But you know, legally, when parents would call about certain information, I would you can give them information that's available online. Like, yes, these
Uh-huh.
are the requirements for the chemistry major, or
Right.
these are the requirements for the School of Arts and Sciences to graduate. You need 120 credits. Because that's not saying your child still needs
Right.
56 credits. But, I think with technology these days, I'm sure, hopefully, again, that's the open communication that you're staying in touch with your kids and knowing where things are and where things stand. And especially before they go, I think helping as much as you feel they need and they feel they need with the process of just understanding, because I do think that first registration can be very confusing and different colleges do it in different ways.
Mhm.
So, helping them read through, making sure they've taken the time to read through what the requirements are, what their options are. I think there's a blog post I once did. It was called, I can't remember who it was for, but don't judge a course by its title, right?
Mhm.
Read the course description. So things like that, because sometimes colleges know that if they give it a flashy title, a lot of students might just sign up for it. But if you don't read you got to read the description, so helping them do things like that, that help them in the future semesters not need your help. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? I guess.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's kind of just that next stage of parenting, because ultimately we want them to be independent and on their own, right? That's the
Yeah.
goal, and college is a big step towards that. It may not be 100% independence, but certainly it's much more independence than in high school. Well, I think, Karen, how about this? Let me just run through my piece with scholarships, and then
Okay.
people can continue to drop questions in the Q&A or the chat. We'll kind of monitor both, but that way we can move things
Yeah. And
on.
I can just literally every tip comes from stories with students. So we can just choose random tips and talk about them and how they came about. So,
Perfect. Cool. Good. Well, so here's what I want to cover with myself. I'll introduce myself, talk about how I got into scholarships. I want to talk about the three categories of scholarships, which is very important, especially as students are heading off to college, and then some particular types of scholarships for college students. So, I'm Dave Peterson, go by Dave the Scholarship Coach online. I got into the world of scholarships because we had not saved enough money for my son to go to college. Um, I'll make a long story short. He started applying for scholarships as a high school junior. He won three that year. By the time he graduated high school, he had earned 18 outside scholarships, got him shipped off. And because of the success he had, some friends and family asked for my help with their kids. And so for the next year, helped some kids of friends and family. And it was really that process, plus working with my son, that made me realize that there's a common methodology and a system to earning scholarships. And so that's why I started Scholarship GPS, where I'm the founder and head scholarship coach. And today I work with students and families around the country, helping them find the best scholarships for their students and then helping them through the application process from, building a list of scholarships that match the student's profile to helping with editing and suggestions for their essays and questions that they just have along the process. So that's a little bit about me. Let's talk about the three types or categories of scholarships. Sorry, I want to move something out of my way there. All right, so first of all would be need-based scholarships. This is based on the student's family's income and assets. Just about every college in the country, with some notable exceptions, uses the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, to determine a family's or a student's financial need. These scholarships come from the colleges, and when you fill out the FAFSA, you get back a number called your Student Aid Index. There's a complicated formula the government uses, but basically what that number is what the government says you can afford for your college per year. Folks in the middle class are often very surprised to find out how much the government thinks they can afford, and the result of that is that they get very little, if any, need-based aid from colleges. A family I worked with, whose household income was a little under $100,000, FAFSA came back saying you can afford to pay almost $25,000 a year for your student. I know that would have not been possible for them. Just a couple other things related, since it's FAFSA related, and that is student loans. Just a couple things I want to say about student loans, and I pulled some of these quotes from Facebook. Student loans can have very high interest rates, even if you have great credit. You see one there is 14%. Student loans are also not necessarily guaranteed. Now, just about every student will qualify for the $5,500 freshman year loan. That goes up to $6,500 their second year, and then $7,500 for third and fourth year. But that is all students can borrow on their own. Beyond that, you, the parent, will be on the hook for any other student loans. So there's something called the Parent Plus loan, which is a federal loan, and then there's some recent changes with that, with a cap on how much parents can borrow now. So that has pushed a lot of people into the uh, private student loan market. So just be aware of that. We have a lot of class of 2026 parents here, so you hopefully are aware of that by now. But for those who might have younger kids, that's important to know. Second type of scholarship would be merit scholarships based on the student's proven abilities. These also come from the colleges themselves, and they're based on either the student's academics, athletics, or maybe their artistic abilities. For those who are, not the star quarterback and not, the next, I don't know even who a famous dancer is, but, somebody with great artistic ability, most students are trying to get merit scholarships based on their academics. The way to do that is to have a higher GPA and higher test scores. Those are kind of the two keys that unlock merit aid at most colleges. Um, like I said, test scores are a big piece of that. This is a quote from family I worked with, mom I worked with her student. He was able to get a full tuition scholarship from the college he will be attending, thanks exclusively to his standardized test scores and his GPA. That brings us to the third category of scholarships, which are private scholarships. These don't come from the colleges. Instead, they come from businesses and philanthropic organizations. These were incredibly important for our family. This is two-thirds of the scholarship funds that my son earned, and we ultimately only paid $1,500 for his college experience. That was tuition, room, board, books, and fees. Some scholarships will send the prize money to the student directly, usually in the form of a check. Still, most of them will send the funds to the college. But the coolest thing about private scholarships, in my opinion, is that they can be used at any college in the country. And about anywhere from 25% to a third of students transfer colleges during their college career. So if the student does transfer, the outside scholarship follows the student, whereas merit aid is locked into that particular college. And if the student needs to transfer, they lose that. Now, some schools will offer transfer students some scholarships, but it's far less and far smaller in amount. So just be aware of that. Um, Outside scholarships are not an anomaly. This is Talon, his mom Audria. He graduated class of 2024, so what is that, 2 cycles ago. His mom calls him a very average student, which I think is a fair assessment. He did certainly not have elite test scores, had a fairly good GPA, but not was not going to get into Harvard or Dartmouth or something like that. He ultimately earned well over $100,000 in outside scholarships. And in fact, his first year of college, they cut him a refund check of $24,000. He had earned so many outside scholarships that, he didn't need all of that the first year. He should be finishing up his second year at a community college this year. He's in like a 2+2 program, so he'll be moving on to a state university to study engineering in the fall. And talk to his mom, Audrey, still fairly frequently. In fact, her other child is class of 27, and I continue to work with her for her other student. So those are the three categories of scholarships. I want to talk now. Oh, sorry, one other thing to say about that. So it doesn't really matter which of these categories you're pulling from. Some people will pull from just one, others two, some others all three. But the idea is to pull from as many as you can, get as close to a full ride as possible, hopefully graduate debt free, and maybe even more importantly, keep your family savings intact. All right, so let's talk about scholarships specifically for college students. We're going to talk about first institutional scholarships. So many students miss these. And in fact, some of these types of scholarships are open to students before they're even admitted. Once the student submits their application for admission, they can start applying for these types of scholarships. I pulled this one up as an example. University of Iowa, they have a scholarship portal for undergraduate students. Once the student has submitted their application for admission, or of course, if they are admitted, they get a student ID and they can go into a portal like this and look for the scholarships based on things like their academic major or any other type of qualification or status that they get matched with. So this is just the top here of the screenshot, but this list goes on and on. There's well over 100 scholarships just in this example. Many colleges have similar portals like this. So that is a really untapped opportunity that many families miss, especially going into college. They think that these are, even if they know about these at all, they think that the student has to be admitted and enrolled, and that is not the case. Often these deadlines will be before admission decisions are even made. So for any student class of 27 or younger, be aware of these types of scholarships so that you don't miss them. And then class of 2026 or older, make sure that your student is aware if their college has a portal like this and that they're checking it at least every semester. I would say more often than that, so that they know what scholarships are available and then are applying for them. Another kind of similar thing, you might find a college that uses something called Scholarship Universe. It's basically a tool, think like Score. Some high schools use a tool called Score. This is, a third party has built this platform that many colleges use to house their scholarships, and it's called Scholarship Universe. So very similar to what you saw with the University of Iowa, just a different name of the platform. If you can't find something like that, you can simply go onto the website, use their search feature. I don't think I've ever been to a college website where there's not a search feature, and search for scholarships. And you can see, it comes up right here. You can also go to the financial aid page. That's a great place to start. But the college website is going to be a great resource for finding specific scholarships for whatever college your student is attending. Then there are also outside scholarships. So this falls into that third category that we talked about before. Outside scholarships or private scholarships. I have a free resource. You can scan that QR code or go to scholarshipgps.com/scholarship-websites. These are about a dozen scholarship search sites that I recommend. They are the ones that we used for my son to find his scholarships. They're the sites I use to find scholarships for the students I work with. All of the sites listed there are free, with the exception of one that is Scholarship Owl. You can get a free, I think it's still a 7-day trial. I don't really recommend paying for Scholarship Owl beyond that, only in very, very rare circumstances. But all the others are free. Students should set up profiles on there, be thorough with their description and setting up that profile. The more detailed that profile is, the better the scholarship matches will be on those sites. I do work with college students through my Scholarship Navigator for College student program. Includes online support. So when students have questions, trying to navigate the world of scholarships, I'm available for them. I put together an initial list of scholarships based on the student's profile. It'll include at least a minimum of 20 scholarships. Very rarely do I stop there. I usually provide much more. And then probably the most important piece is that I provide personalized help with up to 3 scholarship applications and essays each month. And that's not just, send me an essay and they get feedback once and we're done. We can do as many rounds of feedback and review for that application and essay as needed, up to 3 different unique scholarships per month. Students also get access to my video-based course where I teach best practices on scholarships, everything from how to find them to best practices for applications and particularly essays. That is available at scholarshipgps.com/college navigator. It is only $37 a month and there's no long-term commitment. You can cancel at any time. Obviously, it's not my preferred thing, but I had somebody earlier this month sign up and immediately canceled. They just wanted that free list. That was all they wanted. And, for $37, it was a good deal for them. So, but most people I do work with a little bit more long term. So that is available there. And I am making an offer for folks who sign up for my class, Scholarship GPS, which is lifetime access. Anybody who signs up with this link, scholarshipgps.com/go to class, I'm going to give a copy of Karen's book, Go to Class. So two different options there if you're looking for more the one-on-one help, more of a long-term thing, that would be the Navigator. But if you'd just like to learn all the best practices that are inside my head related to scholarships, it's a video-based course and you have lifetime access. So with that, Karen, let me turn it back to you and let's see if we have any other
Well, and
questions.
I can just jump in about scholarships for continuing students,
Yeah.
because I did see that sometimes. And I can say that college websites can be confusing. And this is another reason why it's really important to get to know people on campus. Because what I used to do when students would come to my office is, as we talked about things, whether it was a professor I thought they should talk to, or a department I thought they should check out, or whatever, I had a million bookmarks, and I would just give them links in an email after, like, these are all the things we talked about, so that they could do it really quickly. And sometimes people came in and talked about scholarships. So, I would be able to say, oh, I know about this one, or I know that you're going to be a molecular bio major. So I know that they have 3 scholarships for juniors, or I know that the study abroad office is offering something for people who've never been to XYZ country, whatever. So I think getting that direct connection with
Hmm.
somebody who can help you once you're there. Obviously, before you go, you need to do everything on your own on your website. But the whole point is that there are people like me, even at large schools,
Yeah.
where their whole job is to help your student. So, and same with professors. And I also think there's other things I only learned about, after I'd been there a year or so, but there are things like emergency funds, where if somebody's parent lost their job and they need to buy their books, or to pay a little part of their semester so that they didn't get deregistered from all their classes, all these kinds of things that used to happen. If you have someone in your corner helping you negotiate and what's the word, get through the system, because some
Hmm.
of these colleges have very large bureaucratic systems. So
Yeah.
having somebody who can help you with the deadlines and the right person to call, because you just don't want to always call and be like, if you are so and so, push one. It's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
nice to say, Dean Dentler told me to go talk to this person. And then, sometimes it works a little better. But yes, advising scholarships for continuing students was something that we always had to remind our students about, that, if
Yeah.
you were studying abroad, or maybe you were going to do a cool research thing. And, some colleges are even offering money now for students to take an unpaid internship.
Hmm.
And that's really cool, because all they have to do is maybe spend some time at career services to sort of unlock that $2,000. So again,
Right.
that maybe that's not a scholarship, but that's a way for you to do something for your resume that you would have maybe not been able to do, because, your parents weren't rich and couldn't just have you live in whatever city this internship is going to be in. So
Yeah.
I think, again, connecting with the people, and they can help you find not just money, but all the things you need to get through.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, that's fantastic advice. And along the same lines, like your academic advisor within your major,
Yes,
they will know about departmental scholarships. They'll know about internships and all of the types of things that students are going to be looking for. And establishing that relationship early and meeting with your advisor regularly and building a rapport can open up a lot of opportunities. And so get out of your dorm room, not just go to class, but meet your professors
right.
and take advantage of office hours and things like that.
Yeah, I remember a student who once said something like, I'm getting a C in organic chemistry. Should I still be a doctor? I was like, I think this isn't something we're going to talk about via email, right? Like, let's come in
Yeah,
and talk about what your goals are. So,
exactly.
but yeah, so I think getting to know people so that they can help you negotiate through everything. One thing I talk about in the book a little bit is just that there's research opportunities in every major. Like, obviously
Mm.
people know that you can research in biology or in physics or whatever, but there's research in all different departments and finding out about that. So, like for example, it says um, my daughter did some stuff with economic data, and English departments can do archival research, poetry databases. So I think to remember maybe as a sophomore that you may want to get involved in that, because sometimes that can come with funding or opportunities, things like that. So, and even small colleges, I mean, professors do research. It's what they do. I mean, they
Yeah.
teach,
Yep.
but they also do research.
Yep.
So,
That's right. Good. Well, our winner for the free copy of Karen's book, Go to Class: How to Succeed at College, is Mary B. Mary, I have your email address. I have everybody's email address. So, Mary, I'll reach out to find out where to send that. But congrats. Thanks for attending tonight. And thanks everybody for attending.
yeah. And if people want to follow my book on Instagram, it's at College Gift Book. And the book is on any online bookstore. So, I mean, obviously Amazon, but it's also at Barnes and Nobles or your favorite independent bookstore. You can find it there.
It's also in a lot of college bookstores, right?
They're online bookstores. It's in like a few college bookstores.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yep.
Um, and if anybody wants a signed copy, you want to put my email in the chat, they can email me and I can like.
I'll have to put it in the follow-up email because I don't have it in front of me. But
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
fine.
I'll do that.
But yeah, I sometimes people a couple years ago, people bought a bunch for like a Girl Scout troop, and I just wrote a little message to all of them and shipped it off to them. So, because I can get copies a little cheaper than the bookstores, so that's fun to do.
Any final thoughts or closing, comments for everybody?
Well, let's see. Did I can just read yeah, I could read the second to last tip, which this is when I get a little philosophical, but I
Mhm.
say, and the most of the tips are very practical, but this one should be, your education should be about more than getting a job. It should also be about learning how to live a good life. Scientists need to know about politics. Business leaders need to understand humanities and history. And then the last says the boundaries between academic departments are arbitrary and in constant flux. Recognize that true knowledge is interdisciplinary. And I'm surprised we didn't have any questions about AI, which I
Mm. Mhm.
don't know how to answer quite yet. But I do believe that it's all the more important as we go forward into whatever future this is going to be. To have that broad understanding and being able to be nimble and learn how to learn. And again, having those good procrastination, time management, those sort of skills, because those things, will never go away being needed by those
For
who
sure.
employ us. So,
Absolutely. That's right.
yeah. So, but AI is going to be interesting. We'll find out.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, thank you, Karen. Thanks, everybody attending, and we will be reaching out with follow-up and Karen's email address so you can order signed copies of her book. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.